Joel Favara, athlete and a coach. Joe, in the 50s, was the man in Tucson High School. He 3 years varsity football, 2 state championships, team captain his senior year, all-city, all-state, all-American. Arizona High School football player of the year, played the All-American Bowl. Went to Oklahoma A&M, which is now Oklahoma State. After he got through playing there, had an injury, was coaching there, and then came out and coached at Safford High School, and then on to Sunnyside. Come on up here, Joel.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank our Lord for doing all the good things for me that I've had done. Had a lot of good happenings throughout my life, and I've had a pretty good football life. And it all kind of started when I moved to Arizona from Mississippi, where we only played tackle football. We never played touch football in Mississippi. In the backyards, on the courtyards, wherever, everybody played tackle football. So in any case, our first school that I went to was St. Peter and Paul, then went to Tucson High School, which was a school in the city, had 3,800 students, and we only had 3 grades, sophomore, juniors, and seniors. None of the players had played tackle football, and I just played backyard tackle football. But it's a credit to the coaches, Coach Greer and his staff, who trained all the football players there to become state champions in 2 years in a row, having never played tackle football before. Pretty good achievement, I think. Well, here tonight, we have some of those players, and you know, when you go to Tucson High with 3,800 students, you have an array, you have a ton of talent. And back at this table where Pat Flood is and all the other Tucson Badgers that I played football with, and many, many others, of course, that was the nucleus for us having undefeated season state championships. Pat Flood was our senior quarterback, valedictorian of the class, and also got a scholarship to Notre Dame. Right halfback was a guy named Mike Morales. He got a scholarship to West Point. The tackle in front of me was Chuck Bergman. He got a scholarship to Missouri. And we had a tackle, Nordmeyer, who got a scholarship to Illinois. And others who played ball. We had some who go to U of A and other schools. And we have a lot of players back there that could have played probably at any school in the nation. So I thank my lucky stars that I was at Tucson High at that time. To thank the staff and to thank my teammates. I had an opportunity to play in an All-American football game in Memphis, Tennessee, and I accepted that offer to play. I said to myself that, you know, I ought to go because it could be a good thing turn out there. Good things could happen. Went to that game, and the coach there was the coach at Oklahoma A&M, and after the game he offered me a 4-year scholarship, so good things do happen. I went to Oklahoma State, now Oklahoma State, and I played 3.5 years of football, got injured my senior year. During those 3.5 years, I had a great school, great education, and tremendous and great athletes and teammates. I've got one of my teammates here today, a guy named Bob LaRue, who is back here. Bob was an N on our team, and you may recognize that name, LaRue. His brother, Jim LaRue, was the head football coach at the University of Arizona. And later on, or at the time of his career, he also coached the Chicago Bears when they won the Super Bowl. And across the hall from Bob in my dorm was a guy named Buddy Ryan. And Buddy, some of you recognize that name, was the coach of our Arizona Cardinals up in Phoenix, and also the coach of the defensive coordinator for those same Chicago Bears when they won the Super Bowl. And we had a coach, an assistant coach at Oklahoma A&M, whose name was Neil Armstrong, not the astronaut, but Neil Armstrong. And he became an assistant coach at the Chicago Bears when they won the Super Bowl. So the game of football, as you all know, all of you athletes out here who have played high school, college, pro, whatever it might be, you know how connected it allows you to be with your teammates and people that you're associated with while you were playing. When I finally finished playing at Oklahoma State, Oklahoma A&M, I had to come back to Tucson to rehab. I had a serious injury, and I had to decide whether if I was going to go back, finish my degree, and I wanted to go into coaching. I had no coaching experience, so I said, well, I need to go back, and good things will happen. I did go back, and when I got back, after a period of time, the coaches offered me an opportunity to coach spring practice, coach the defensive, offensive backs in spring practice, and also the next year freshman team in the spring, in the next fall. That was the first year that African Americans were recruited to Oklahoma A&M, and I had the opportunity and privilege to coach those guys. So with the coaching experience I got there, which I hadn't had before, good things did happen. And I applied for a job in Comanche, Oklahoma. Went down and interviewed, and they wanted to know my coaching experience. Of course, they had already seen it, but that got me the head coaching job at Comanche, Oklahoma. And good things do happen. I took that job, and that's where I met my wife in Comanche, Oklahoma. We've been married now for 52 years. Yeah. Over here. Joyce, stand up. She waved. There she is. Yeah, 52 years. And at that same table, we have my 4 adult children. And at the next table over, we have our grandchildren. And guess what? They all live in Tucson. All live in Tucson. Yeah. And Bob LaRue, my buddy at Oklahoma State, he now lives in Tucson. So we've got part of the population sitting right over there. But after Comanche, I had a good friend who was on Jim LaRue's staff at University of Arizona call me at Comanche, and he said, you know, there's a coaching job open in Safford, Arizona. And I said, where is Safford, Arizona? And he said it's up in kind of the northeast section there. He says it's a good town, good people up there. He says, I think you ought to go look into that. I did look into it. I took the job over the phone. And so when I pulled into Safford, I found really a beautiful little town, big wide streets, fair facilities. They weren't the best facilities, but we had some good combination of African American boys, Hispanic, and good Mormon boys there in Safford. And back at that far table back there are a bunch of those players who played for me in Safford, and they came here today. And those guys represent, there they are, they're going to stand up there. Yeah. These guys represented the victories in many, many games there. We were undefeated in 1962, won a state championship, and those guys I'm thankful that came along at that time, as were the other players. After the Safford experience, I came to Tucson. I coached had good coaching experience and good relationships in Sunnyside School District. I was the head coach of Sunnyside High School. I was also a teacher there and also a school administrator as well as a district administrator. And that's where I retired, was from Sunnyside School District. So the football life that I had and trying out what I needed to do, go to a place where I thought that it would make a difference, it did make a difference. And you know, the committee that looks at your application, they have a last question on there. It says, what does it mean to you to be a member of the Hall of Fame? And I did a little scenario stating that I wanted to really encourage people, especially young people who come to the hall. And I gave a little scenario of a young boy coming to the hall with his parents. He was looking over all these type of posters down here and reading all about all the members, and he came to mind, and he looked at that. Then he came back to his parents and he said, Dad, Mom, look at this. This guy went to Tucson High School. He was an all-state player. He was an All-American He played under me. He went to Oklahoma State University, played football. He was a coach. He worked with lots of people. He contributes to the community now. Says, I want to be like him. I want to be a member of this Hall of Fame. It's an honor and a privilege to be here, and I thank you.